Several hundred million people suffer from diabetes, and about 80% of these individuals do not know how to eat properly. Thus, these 80% have already lost in their fight against diabetes. Because medications alone, without proper nutrition, do not lead to the goal. On the other hand, millions of people with type 2 diabetes could achieve a drastic improvement in their blood sugar levels, an increase in quality of life, and longevity through targeted dietary and lifestyle changes, often without or with significantly fewer medications. In this video, we unveil these secrets and show you how to set your diabetes on a course for therapeutic success. Are you ready for your breakthrough?
Welcome to EndoVision with Dr. Berger, your leading channel for insightful perspectives in the world of endocrinology. Here, we highlight the central challenges of our time: diabetes mellitus, obesity, thyroid disorders, and the essential role of nutrition for a healthy life. Subscribe to EndoVision if you are ready to take your health to the next level. Here begins the path to a healthier, self-determined life.
Today marks a significant first step in the treatment of diabetes mellitus without medication. This is part one of a series where we focus specifically on lifestyle measures and nutrition that have been proven to improve blood sugar levels and thus reduce the risk of complications. At this point, the patients themselves are called upon, as only they can decide what they eat and drink. My role as a diabetologist is to explain to diabetics what are sensible and less sensible ways of eating. So stay tuned until the end so you can choose the right form of nutrition for yourself. I often hear questions like, why even go without medication? I can just take pills or inject insulin, or there's that weight loss injection that all the celebrities are using. But the fact is that an effective, non-medication-based therapy is often enough to significantly lower blood sugar levels in many cases. Why burden the body with medication unnecessarily when a change in diet can also work? I can understand the patients. It's easier to take a pill in the morning than to change one's own behavior. But all medications that have an effect also have side effects, and these can sometimes be more serious than one might think. Worldwide, the number of people with diabetes mellitus, especially type 2, is steadily increasing. In Germany, millions of people are affected. Estimates suggest there are 74 million diabetics in Europe, according to WHO estimates, and about 30 million in the USA. That's about 10% of the population. Worldwide, the number was approximately 537 million in 2021 and is estimated to rise to 783 million by 2045. Diabetes mellitus is therefore also referred to as a silent pandemic. Almost everyone knows someone with diabetes or is personally affected by it. This trend is closely linked to our modern lifestyle. Little physical activity, a lot of sedentary work, and a diet rich in easily digestible carbohydrates and high-calorie processed foods. And in third world countries, it's the increasing urbanization with the adoption of nutrition. Why is nutrition so central in diabetes? Without a doubt, one of the most decisive factors in the treatment of type 2 diabetes. Every meal we consume directly affects blood sugar levels. To better understand this aspect of therapy, we should first generally consider our food and its components. Our nutrition is roughly composed of macronutrients, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and trace elements. In addition, water and fiber also play a significant role. This video will focus on macronutrients. This does not mean that micronutrients or special foods do not play a role in diabetes. We will cover these special nutrients and micronutrients in another video. Carbohydrates. There are 3 types of carbohydrates in the body, which include simple sugars, also known as monosaccharides such as glucose, grape sugar, and fructose, fruit sugar. Double sugars, also called disaccharides, are types of sugars that consist of 2 monosaccharides. Examples of these would be sucrose, table sugar or lactose, milk sugar. Then there are the complex sugars, polysaccharides like starch in potatoes, grains, and glycogen, the storage form in muscles and liver. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of energy. Glucose is quickly absorbed into the blood and primarily supplies the brain and muscles with energy. Excess carbohydrates can be stored as glycogen. However, with prolonged overconsumption, they are converted into fat. Not all carbohydrates are the same. With the glycemic index, GI, you can effectively distinguish their value. The GI describes how quickly and how much a carbohydrate-containing food raises blood sugar levels. Foods with a high GI, such as white bread and sweets, cause blood sugar to spike rapidly. Foods with a low GI, such as whole grain products and legumes, ensure a slower and more even rise in blood sugar, which is more advantageous for metabolic conditions. Proteins. Proteins are primarily found in meat, fish, eggs, dairy products, legumes, nuts, and seeds. They are fundamental building blocks for muscles, enzymes, hormones, and antibodies in our body. Proteins are regularly broken down and rebuilt, so a continuous supply is essential. The quality of proteins depends on the composition of amino acids. Animal proteins are often more complete. Plant-based proteins can be combined, such as grains and legumes, to achieve a high biological value. Fats. There are many different types of fats. The most important for us at the moment are saturated fatty acids, found in animal products, coconut fat, unsaturated fatty acids, both monounsaturated and polyunsaturated, for example in vegetable oils, nuts, fish, and so-called trans fatty acids can form during industrial partial hydrogenation or prolonged heating. Fats serve as an energy source in the body, providing 9 kilocalories per gram, thus having the highest energy density among macronutrients. They play a central role in cell construction and many metabolic processes, and are necessary for the absorption and storage of fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, K. Primarily, unsaturated fatty acids should be used, such as olive oil, canola oil, flaxseed oil, and fish. In 2001, with diabetes mellitus and prediabetes, carbohydrates are undoubtedly the primary focus. First and foremost, carbohydrates are not poison or forbidden foods for diabetics. A significant aspect of carbohydrates is energy provision. Do they ensure without exception that your brain is supplied daily with about 120 to 140 grams of glucose? The brain is extremely demanding and cannot efficiently use fats or proteins as fuel. In the absence of carbohydrates, acidic ketone bodies are produced. The brain can also use these as an energy source. However, carbohydrates are preferred to uncompromisingly meet the high energy demands of your muscles during intense activity. Glucose is indispensable in enabling maximum performance. However, you must be aware that insulin and glucagon dominate carbohydrate metabolism. Without clear control of these hormones, your blood sugar levels can quickly become unbalanced. Also, place special emphasis on a balanced ratio between intake and expenditure. Excess glucose is first stored as glycogen in the liver and muscles, and then converted into fat. Opt for complex, fiber-rich carbohydrates such as whole grain products and vegetables. These are broken down more slowly and keep your blood sugar levels at a steady level. The foundation for stable metabolic health. Strictly avoid simple sugars like sweets and sugary drinks, as they cause blood sugar levels to spike rapidly, promote cravings, and provoke drastic blood sugar fluctuations. Hints in the market are diverse. Limit the consumption of quickly digestible carbohydrates, white flour, sweets, and soft drinks. Otherwise, you risk both obesity and a significantly increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Prefer a balanced intake of carbohydrates from vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes. Only in this way can you ensure a healthy diet in the long term and support your body in all situations. What happens if we do not follow these recommendations over time? Particularly carbohydrates, especially the quickly absorbable ones like sugar or white flour products, can cause blood sugar to rise rapidly. If insulin resistance is already increased, blood sugar rises particularly sharply and also remains high for longer. Additionally, the distribution of fat, particularly visceral fat, belly fat, is related to insulin resistance. An excess of calories and an unfavorable macronutrient distribution promote overweight and thus problems with blood sugar regulation. But don't worry. There are various approaches that can help bring metabolism back into better balance. Here we will briefly list the individual dietary forms. There will be separate videos, short videos for each dietary form, in which we discuss these diets in more detail. If you're interested, definitely check out these videos. They are linked below in the description. The first dietary form for diabetics is the so-called low-carb, moderate-carb diet. A frequently discussed approach is a carbohydrate-reduced diet. This doesn't necessarily mean that you stop eating carbohydrates altogether. With low-carb, it's mainly about avoiding processed, sugar-rich foods, and instead focusing on more vegetables, healthy fats, eggs, fish or lean meat. Avoid starchy foods like bread, pasta, rice, and potatoes if you want to be particularly strict. Advantages: blood sugar levels are often more stable because the rapid blood sugar spikes are absent. Many people report feeling well satiated. Disadvantages: some find it difficult to give up bread, pasta, and the like. An overly radical abstinence can also become boring in the long run. Alternatively, one can choose a moderate carb diet. Here you try to find a middle ground, for example, 40 to 45% of calories from complex carbohydrates, 30% from fats, and the rest from proteins. It is important that the carbohydrates mainly come from whole grains, legumes, and vegetables. A second very well-known dietary style is the Mediterranean diet, often promoted as particularly heart-healthy. It is also often recommended for diabetics. Let's take a closer look at it this time. The focus of the Mediterranean diet is on vegetables and fruits, legumes, whole grains, fish, olive oil, and moderate amounts of poultry. This diet is rich in unsaturated fats, which are found in foods like nuts or olive oil, and it offers plenty of fiber. Research indicates that a Mediterranean diet can reduce the risk of cardiovascular diseases and help better control weight. Especially for people with diabetes, who often also have an increased cardiovascular risk, this is a very sensible option. However, besides the actual diet, the dining experience is also crucial. In the Mediterranean region, much more calm and ambience is used for having a meal. In my opinion, this aspect of food consumption also contributes to the success of this diet. Fiber is indigestible carbohydrates that we primarily find in whole grain products, vegetables, and legumes. Why are they so important? They delay the absorption of sugar in the intestine, leading to a more stable blood sugar level. Furthermore, they keep you full longer, which reduces cravings, and they promote a healthy gut flora, which, according to current findings, also influences sugar metabolism. So, anyone who makes sure to include extra fiber in every meal can do a lot for their blood sugar and overall health. Intermittent fasting, interval fasting. You've probably heard of intermittent fasting or interval fasting. For example, the 16-8 method. You limit your food intake to an 8-hour window each day and fast for the remaining 16 hours. Studies show that this approach, under medical supervision and with an overall reasonable calorie intake, can help reduce weight and improve insulin sensitivity. It's important that during the eating phase, you don't make up for calories uncontrollably, but continue to focus on a high-quality composition. Vegetables, healthy fats, proteins, and complex carbohydrates. Pay attention to balanced meals during the eating window. Intermittent fasting is not a free pass for unhealthy foods. If you're interested in this form of diet or want to try it out, check out the detailed video about intermittent fasting. You can find the link to it in the video description. Taylor Method, Newcastle Diet. A very specific approach is the Taylor Method, also known as the Newcastle Diet. In this method, calorie intake is limited to around 800 kilocalories per day for several weeks, often through formula shakes and low-calorie vegetable dishes. This is primarily intended to defat the liver and pancreas, which can improve insulin resistance. In some cases, even a remission of type 2 diabetes can be achieved. However, this method is very strict and should definitely be medically supervised, as it is not suitable for everyone and can lead to deficiencies, if applied improperly. Since this dietary method has shown very promising results in diabetes therapy, the discoverer, Professor Taylor, was also awarded a high honor by the European Association for the Study of Diabetes. But it cannot be emphasized enough. This diet must be medically supervised. An adequate protein intake as well as a sensible supplementation of vitamins and minerals are absolutely essential. After the intensive phase, a structured exit program with a gradual increase in calories is necessary to avoid yo-yo effects. I have also made a detailed video about this very promising form of diet. I have linked the video below in the description. Those were initially the most essential dietary forms for diabetes mellitus. But diabetics can apply some tips and tricks that support them in maintaining a balanced and diabetes-adapted diet. We will briefly discuss this now. Choose high-quality foods. Consistently opt for whole grain products, whole grain bread, pasta, and rice, to provide complex carbohydrates along with fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Integrate legumes, lentils, beans, and chickpeas as sources of protein and carbohydrates. They ensure a steady release of blood sugar and additionally provide fiber. Reduce sugar traps and avoid soft drinks, sweet juices, or syrups as much as possible. Pure water, unsweetened tea, or heavily diluted broths are the preferred thirst quenchers. Pay attention to the ingredient lists when shopping. Sugar is often disguised, such as glucose syrup, dextrose, maltodextrin, or isomaltose. Meal prepping and structured planning. Plan your meals in advance to ensure complex carbohydrates and a balanced distribution of nutrients at any time of the day. Always have healthy snacks ready. Whole grain crackers, vegetable sticks with hummus, natural yogurt with berries, to better handle spontaneous cravings. Combine protein and fiber. Combine each carbohydrate source with protein, such as quark, skyr, cottage cheese, legumes, or healthy fats like nuts, avocado, olive oil. This reduces the speed of blood sugar spikes. Fiber-rich foods are filling and help keep blood sugar levels stable. Portion control. Even with high-quality carbohydrates, the total amount is relevant. For example, follow a rule of thumb. A quarter of the plate with complex carbohydrates, whole grain rice, pasta, a quarter with proteins, meat, fish, legumes, and the other half with vegetable salad. Use smaller plates to keep an eye on portion sizes and avoid overconsumption. We actually feel full faster when using small plates. In this first part of our video series on non-pharmacological therapy for type 2 diabetes, one central theme is in focus: nutrition. Millions of people with diabetes do not know how to eat properly. A targeted change in diet is often the key to better blood sugar levels, improved quality of life, and living with fewer or even no medications. Do you really want to actively do something about your diabetes? Completely without medication? Then start today. Subscribe to the channel, watch the linked videos on the different dietary methods, and find the right diet for you. It's in your hands. Your diet is your strongest medicine. Feel free to write something in the comments if you have suggestions. Maybe you would like to have more dietary forms discussed in relation to diabetes. Just write it in. Subscribe now and activate the bell so you don't miss the next part of our series. Together, we'll get your blood sugar on the path to success. Stay healthy and see you next time.